Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, we're turning our attention to, it was tough for many people to actually digest that it actually happened. It's a heartbreaking story of a boy, a 9-year-old boy, that was chained by his father. Well, yes, that's the report that made the rounds at that time. But we'll also get some security perspectives in a moment. But now we're joined by Ebelechukwu Umuzo, who is the president and founder of Sympathy Worldwide Foundation. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, this kind of story is just seeing some of those images, listening that it actually happened, raises a lot of concern about society, how some persons carry out things in society. But is this the kind of case that it certainly will get everybody's attention? But how so for your organization?
Well, I really was shocked, but because we have also handled cases that are close to that, I wasn't too, taken aback, But the aspect of it that was really, really terrible for me is the kind of shame, the kind of instruments that the man used on the child. Well, for our organization, we have seen very bad cases of man inhumanity to man. Because when you're talking about trafficking, like I was trying to look at it very well, and for me, it has some trafficking flavor in it, though it is not an entirely trafficking case. Because when you're talking about trafficking here, a child or anybody who is a victim of trafficking is, in most cases, recruited, you understand, abducted, and of course moved from one place to the other. Well, I was going to say that the first thing to really even find out here is if truly this man is the biological father of the child. That is, so by establishing a DNA test, we'll first of all find out if he is the one that actually gave, because anybody can claim anything at any given time. So for me, that's the first step, you understand, in addressing this issue. Then, having established that, every other thing can follow.
Because thankfully the boy was eventually rescued by, I think, a combination of the police and the Civil Defense Corps. But in part of the cases, the way it was narrated was that some of those matters had actually been reported to, the father's relatives, and they calmed down for a bit, and then it usually continued. And one wonders, how come these kind of things, they were not initially reported to the police until somebody eventually blew the whistle?
Oh yeah, that is, I'm not surprised that it took this long before it was brought to the full glare of the public, because even in handling a couple of trafficking cases and even immediate rape, as in domestic violence, you discover that the people that are directly victims of such, especially the parents of the victims, are usually not ready to speak up. So I wouldn't know what threat the stepmother, that's Mrs. Kehinde now, was facing from the man. I would also know, Nigerians are usually very afraid to speak up, usually very afraid. But, well, someone had to take the bull by the horn in this case, because if they didn't really, alert the police, that boy couldn't have been rescued. So most times things happen and people swallow it, or, there's always this pandering on them of fear. If you do this, I'll do that. If you do. So most times this kind of thing happen and people get away with it and they're not willing to speak, and it continues to happen.
Now, we have a case of both parents being alive here now. What is it that you have been able to get out of this? Is there a possible collusion in others that you have seen before now, your organization? Do we usually have collusion between both parents, the mother and the father in this case? Because the mother never seemed to have given any hoot about this boy being chained by the father.
Well, if I understand that story very well, the biological mother of that boy is no longer with the father right now. Okay? So the person who is there now, who of course is also a suspect, you understand, in the whole game here, is a stepmother. So like I said, it is possible that there is a collision. It's possible also that the woman who is living with this man is under some kind of threat, such a way that this kind of thing happens over and over a period of time, and she's not able to speak up. So that's what I figured that must have happened there. Otherwise, how can a woman that has given birth to a child watch another child chained to the wall for over a month?
And the man never denied it.
It's absurd. It's absurd. If I understand what the calling of God into pastoral ministry is, I'm not seeing anything that is related to that here.
All right, let's we'll just take a moment and then we'll be back. And not to worry, Mark, but just hang on. We'll be back in a minute.